Good morning. Happy 4th of July. Today is Friday, July 4th. Well, I guess that was already indicated. Well, anyway, welcome back to Baptist for Liberty. I'm your host, Joanna Work, and today we have a lighter subject. We are going to be talking about certain songs and their history, their lyrics, their meanings. I don't know, it's a lighter subject, but it's kind of deeper because there's a lot of times we listen to songs and we don't go deeper into where they come from and are they actually Christian songs? Are they even American songs? That's one of the first songs we're going to look at is on the 1812 Overture. I've been wanting to do a few episodes focusing on songs like this, a short segment every once in a while on a song, and I haven't yet, but one of the songs I've had in mind was actually the Battle Hymn of the Republic. And last night, though, I came across this article from 2003 about the 1812 Overture. Completely by accident, I was looking for a picture that was related to 1812, and somehow I stumbled across this article. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's really neat. So I'm going to go ahead and share some thoughts on that and a little bit of what I've learned about that, which I thought was really cool. But first, I think there's a song that I heard a lot as a kid because it was like every family show. I guess just it's a kid-friendly kind of song. So whether you ended up watching Barney and Friends or Full House or some other family like sitcom or show for kids, they would eventually do this song Yankee Doodle Boy. And I knew it was supposed to be like some kind of 4th of July song, but the lyrics always sounded very nonsensical to me. And I didn't understand, okay, what does this have to do with the 4th of July? Were they even called Yankees at that point? I don't think they were. I pulled up the Wikipedia page here on Yankee Doodle. And like I said, Wikipedia, anybody can post just about anything on there. I know of an actor who went and he tried to correct some information that was on a wiki page about himself. And Wikipedia ended up rejecting all of his corrections about himself because it was misinformation about certain movies that he was or was not in. And so, yeah, that's just an anecdotal story of one of those weird things about Wikipedia. But as a source, you can go to it. They list sources at the bottom. So be sure to check out the sources. If you have any questions on this particular article, there's only 3 external links. So Yankee Doodle Boy, also well known as I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy, is a patriotic song from the Broadway musical Little Johnny Jones, written by George M. Cohan. The play opened at the Liberty Theater on November 7, 1904. The play concerns the trials and tribulations of a fictional American jockey, Johnny Jones, based on the real-life jockey, Todd Sloan, who rides a horse named Yankee Doodle in the English Derby. Cohan incorporates snippets of several popular traditional American songs into his lyrics of this song, as he often did with his songs. The song was performed by James Cagney in the 1942 film Yankee Doodle Dandy, in which he played Cohan. In 2004, the American Film Institute recognized this version of Yankee Doodle Boy on the AFI's 100 Years, 100 Songs list as part of the AFI 100 Years series, placing at number 71 on the list, ahead of Good Morning from Singing in the Rain and behind Summer Nights from Grease. In an early hit version, and it goes on about different versions of the song before it actually gives the lyrics. And it gives a footnote on some of the words here. First one is, all candy was late 19th century slang equivalent to hot stuff. Number 2, pronounced the old-fashioned way, Mariah. Mariah. Okay, so that's a reference into a name that he mentions in the song. So the first verse is, I'm the kid that's all the candy, I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy, I'm glad I am, so's Uncle Sam. I'm a real live Yankee Doodle, made my name and fame and boodle, just like Mr. Doodle did by riding on a pony. I love to listen to the Dixie strain. I long to see the girl I left behind me. That ain't a Josh, she's a Yankee, by gosh. Oh, say, can you see anything about a Yankee that's a phony? Verse 2, father's name was Hezekiah, mother's name was Anne Mariah. Yanks through and through, red, white, and blue. Father was so Yankee-hearted when the Spanish War was started. He slipped on a uniform and hopped upon a pony. My mother's mother was a Yankee true. My father's father was a Yankee too. That's going some for the Yankees, by gum. Oh, say, can you see anything about my pedigree that's phony? And the chorus is, I'm a Yankee Doodle dandy, a Yankee Doodle do or die, a real-life nephew of my Uncle Sam, born on the 4th of July. I've got a Yankee Doodle sweetheart, she's my Yankee Doodle joy. The Yankee Doodle came to London just to ride the ponies. I am the Yankee Doodle Boy. Without context to the play, I don't know how good the play was or anything like that, or not play, but musical, well, I guess Broadway play. Anyway, yeah, I think that's interesting. When I first read the lyrics, though, and I saw the Anne Marie, I'm like, that's supposed to be a good Yankee name? That looks like it's Russian or another European. You know, that's a name used for a lot of European nobility, actually. Also, he's in London, and he sings Red, White, and Blue. Well, you know, the UK flag, I think it's called the Union Jack. That's also red, white, and blue. But I don't know if they were even using it at that time, because the British flag is just white and red, I think. It's a St. George cross. Spanish War, yeah, you know, calling to American fighting, even back in 1902, 1904. Okay, so that's interesting a little bit. So the next song I was going to look at is the 1812 Overture. And I was going to try to take this in chronological order, but actually Yankee Doodle Boy should have been the last one if I was going to do that, I guess. Okay, so the 1812 Overture, and the first article I read was by Andrew Druckenbrod, written for the Post-Gazette. He's a classical music critic. He's talking about the overture was actually written by Peter Ilyichovsky, depicts Napoleon's retreat from Russia in 1812, not America's battle against the British as many might think. That's right, at the height of most Independence Day ceremonies, Memorial Day pageantry, or other fireworks displays, the 1812 Overture blares strains of the French national anthem, Le Marseillaise, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but probably not, and the old Russian national anthem, God Save the Tsar, across our amber waves of grain. But this bizarre twist is not as unpatriotic as it might seem. And he goes on to detail some of the history and meanings, and one of the things I found most interesting about this article is near the bottom, he makes a point about different songs and their meanings changing. And oftentimes writers of songs, you know, once you finish writing a song, that's not the end to defining the song, but that's actually the beginning, because then it's performed, and then how it's performed, how it's put in people's minds or reused over time changes people's perceptions. And I think that makes a really great point on there's so many things that we do either for 4th of July or other times that we think as being traditional, and we have no idea where it came from or what it means. We just think, well, it fits. This is the way we've always done it. It means we're patriot Americans. If you don't like this song, how can you be a patriot American? You know, patriotic American. But really, there's times where songs, you know, they go through quite a few changes. And in fact, before the 1812 Overture was considered a great American iconic hymn for fireworks or Memorial Day, it was actually used for Quaker Puff Wheat TV commercial. And he actually covers this in his article. And I'll just read a little bit here. It says, many may remember an earlier shift in meaning that the 1812 overture itself acquired when used in Quaker puffed wheat TV spots. To Americans, this might conjure up memories of childhood, watching television, or the family breakfast, all presumably happy memories and positive associations, even if only of breakfast cereal shooting from a cannon, says Grayson. And Grayson was one of the music experts that he interviewed for this article. This obviously could not have been what Tchaikovsky intended, but it helps to explain why Americans enjoy the piece. We remake meanings all the time when we recombine things in pieces, says Root. When people are raising the... anyway, it makes a reference to alcohol. And basically, when you raise the glass to salute and the fireworks while listening to the 1812 overture, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're stupid. It just relates to us as in an individual way. And I'm paraphrasing what he says here. And I think that's a very fair point. And it makes me wonder, this is a question I've had for a long time, what does it take before something attains that meaning of tradition in a generation of a multiple people, what does it take before something becomes iconic, before we start thinking and assuming, well, this is the way it's always been, or this belongs to us even though we borrowed it from somebody else. There was something else I was going to quote that was earlier in here that I thought was very interesting. And one of the things is the composer here, Tchaikovsky, almost never got to perform the song exactly the way he wrote it, because I don't know, just the way things are, and he wrote it for cannons to go on with it. That's going to affect how it's going to play, whether you can have cannons or not. But that's one reason why it's so good with fireworks, because it is a battle song. Let's see. Okay, so with the exception of America the Beautiful, the U.S. is short of patriotic hymns, says Bastian. The Star-Spangled Banner is a tongue twister. Then you have America, which is really the British national anthem. Being an immigrant nation, we are not offended by using another country's national anthem. I think if we, these days we would, because we're a little too nationalistic and proud, which is probably why we pretend that certain songs are ours instead of borrowed. But once upon a time, I think we recognized that our culture was imported, and so we didn't mind importing little bits and pieces of songs or such. And I think it is very interesting that America, the song is actually the British national anthem as far as musically goes. And back to Wikipedia on 1812 Overture. I liked this section that goes through the musical structure, so you can get a real sense of how the music plays and the story that it's telling, because it really is a song that tells a story. So and it combines pre-existing songs to tell it. Now, as Americans, we don't know these pre-existing songs or the history of these songs. So to us, it's just a really good battle song, firecracker song. But to the Russians, the culture that it was originally intended for, these have a much deeper, stirring kind of meaning to it. So I'm just going to read this section on the musical structure. Beginning with the plaintive Russian melody of the Eastern Orthodox Troparion of the Holy Cross, also known as O Lord, Save Thy People, played by 4 cellos and 2 violas, the piece moves through a mixture of pastoral and martial themes portraying the increasing distress of the Russian people at the hands of the invading French. This passage includes a Russian folk dance, At the Gate, At My Gate. I guess in Russian it's You Vorot Vorot. At the turning point of the invasion, the Battle of Borodino, the score calls for 5 Russian cannon shots confronting a boastfully repetitive fragment of La Marseillaise, as descending strings passage represents the subsequent retreat of the French forces, followed by victory bells and triumphant repetition of O Lord, save thy people, as Moscow burns to deny winter quarters to the French. A musical chase scene appears, out of which emerges the anthem God Save the Tsar, thundering with 11 more precisely scored shots. The overture utilizes counterpoint to reinforce the appearance of the leitmotif that represents Russian forces throughout the piece. A total of 16 cannon shots are written into the score of the overture. The music can be interpreted as a fairly literal depiction of the campaign. In June 1812, the previously undefeated French Allied army of over 500,000 battle-hardened soldiers and almost 1,200 state-of-the-art guns, cannons, artillery pieces crossed the Neum River into Lithuania on its way to Moscow. The Russian Orthodox Patriarch of all the Russias, aware that the Russian Imperial Army could field a force only a fraction of this size, inexperienced and poorly equipped, called on the people to pray for deliverance and peace. The Russian people responded in mass, gathering in churches all across the empire and offering their heartfelt prayers for divine intervention. The opening hymn. Next we hear the ominous notes of approaching conflict and preparation for battle with a hint of desperation but great enthusiasm, followed by the distant strains of La Marseillaise, the French national anthem, as the French approach. Scrimmages follow, and the battle goes back and forth. But the French continue to advance, and La Marseillaise becomes more prominent and victorious, almost invincible. The Tsar desperately appeals to the spirit of the Russian people in an eloquent plea to come forward and defend the Rodina, or motherland. As the people in their villages consider his impassioned plea, we hear traditional Russian folk music. La Marseillaise returns in force with great sound of battle as the French approach Moscow. The Russian people now begin to stream out of their villages and towns toward Moscow to the increasing strains of folk music, and, as they gather together, there is even a hint of celebration. Now La Marseillaise is heard in counterpoint in the folk music as the great armies clash on the plains west of Moscow and Moscow burns. Just at the moment that Moscow is occupied and all seems hopeless, the hymn, O Lord, save thy people, that opens the piece is heard again as God intervenes, bringing an unprecedented deep freeze the French cannot bear. The winter winds blow in the music. The French attempt to retreat, but their guns, stuck in the freezing ground, are captured by the Russians and turned against them. Finally, the guns are fired in celebration, and church bells all across the land peal in grateful honor of their deliverance from their treacherous and cruel enemies. In a transcription by American conductor Igor, the following changes and additions were made. And he marks the opening segment, God Preserve Thy People, is sung a cappella by a choir. A children's or women's choir is added to the flute or cor and duet rendition of At the Gate, At My Gate. The orchestra and chorus unite in the climax with a triumphant version of O Lord, save thy people, and God save the Tsar. Okay, and some historical background he gives, let's see. Let's see. First of all, the commission of the overture. So, then what happened bringing the song about? In 1880, the Cathedral of Christ the Savior, commissioned by Tsar Alexander I to commemorate the Russian victory, was nearing completion in Moscow. The 25th anniversary of the coronation of Alexander II would be at hand in 1881, and the 1882 Moscow Arts and Industry Exposition was in the planning stage. Tchaikovsky's friend and mentor Nikolai Rubinstein suggested that he write a grand commemorative piece for use in related festivities. Tchaikovsky began work on the project on October 12, 1880, finishing it 6 weeks later. Organizers planned to have the overture performed in the square before the cathedral with a brass band to reinforce the orchestra. The bells of the cathedral and all the others in downtown Moscow playing zvons, pealing bells on cue, and cannons, fired from an electric switch panel to achieve the precision the musical score required. However, this performance did not take place, possibly partly due to the overambitious plan. Regardless, the assassination of Alexander II that March deflated much of the impetus for the project. In 1882, during the Arts and Industry Exhibition, the overture was performed in a tent next to the unfinished cathedral. The cathedral was completed on May 26, 1883. Meanwhile, Tchaikovsky complained to his patron, Nadezhda von Meck, that he was not a conductor of festival pieces, and that the overture would be very loud and noisy, but without artistic merit, because I wrote it without warmth and without love. Adding himself to the legion of artists who have castigated their own work, it is this work that would make the Tchaikovsky estate exceptionally wealthy, as it is one of the most performed and recorded works from his catalogue. On his 1891 visit to the United States, Tchaikovsky conducted the piece at the dedication of Carnegie Hall in New York City. After the Russian Revolution, the Tsar's anthem melody was replaced until 1990 with the chorus, "Glory, Glory to you, Holy Russia," from the final of Mikhail Glinka's opera A Life for the Tsar. Also mentioned in here, and I thought this was interesting, was anachronisms of national motifs. So there was the song being written quite a bit after the 1812 and the war between Napoleon and the Russians there. There are some historical inaccuracies on certain songs to represent the nations. So, although La Marseillaise was chosen as a French national anthem in 1795, it was banned by Napoleon in 1805 and would not have been played during the Russian campaign. It was reinstated as the French anthem in 1879, the year before the commission of the Overture, which can explain its use by Tchaikovsky in the Overture. Although God Save the Tsar was the Russian national anthem in Tchaikovsky's time, it had not been written in 1812. There was no official Russian anthem until 1815, from which time until 1833 the anthem was Molitva Ruska, Prayer of the Russians, sung to the tune of God Save the King. Okay, so I think that was all very interesting for me to read, so I hope you'll enjoy it too. And as the first article I read pointed out how we adopted it, they said, Tchaikovsky was very popular in America, which probably plays a role in why we love this song and how it's become so popular for us. It isn't just because it's great for fireworks display, but there is a real sentiment for this song, and it was used for the dedication ceremony of Carnegie Hall in New York City. So that's an American city that's very iconic. Even though we have a vast land and different regions, and the culture in New York is rather different from, say, if you were in some city in Texas, but still people recognize that is a very American city. It's one fragment of our total culture, so it does have a little bit of American history to it. One of the things I find most amusing, though, was that we didn't start adopting the 1812 Overture as a tradition until we were in the midst of the Cold War. It was like the mid or late 1970s, and then it gained a little more popularity, and it was used in the 1880s for fireworks displays on a more regular basis. And going back to how meanings change and what does it take to change the meaning of a song, for me, I can literally say I don't remember a time we didn't use that song for fireworks displays. And so I think age does play a part. I mean, if you're older, you have a different concept of time than if you're younger. And so if a tradition or a new tradition, something was started when you're younger, to you, well, that's part of your younger years memory. So as far as yeah, that's how we've done it, and that's the way it's supposed to be done, because I remember that as a kid, that childhood memory. It has a very profound effect. Whereas somebody older will go, well, why are we doing this new thing? And it might take them more like 20, 30 years before to them it becomes tradition, depending on how resistant they are to the idea of it, for any reasons. But, and of course, also emotions play a huge role in it. Is it a fond childhood memory? Is it a negative memory? Does it have any emotional connection? I mean, that's going to affect how we perceive any tradition, really. Okay, let's see. And, oh my goodness, I didn't even get to the Battle Hymn of the Republic yet. Okay, but it's already time to do our Proverbs of the Day, because I have been really, really bad lately and going over time. And part of me is like, well, it's not a very limited radio cast. Like, originally I was limited to 30 minutes. But then when I changed formats, it's like, oh, yeah, I can go over a little bit. But I'm trying to get better about staying within our allotted time. Today's proverb is Proverbs chapter 4. Hear ye, children, the instruction of a father, and attend to no understanding. For I give you good doctrine. Forsake ye not my law. For I was my father's son, tender and only beloved in the sight of my mother. He taught me also, and said unto me, Let thine heart retain my words. Keep my commandments, and live. Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not, neither decline from the words of my mouth. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she shall keep thee. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. Exalt her, and she shall promote thee. She shall bring thee to honor. When thou dost embrace her, she shall give to thine head an ornament of grace, a crown of glory shall she deliver to thee. Hear, O my son, and receive my sayings, and the years of thy life shall be many. I have taught thee in the way of wisdom. I have led thee in right paths. When thou goest, thy steps shall not be straitened, and when thou runnest, thou shalt not stumble. Take fast hold of instruction, let her not go. Keep her, for she is thy life. Enter not into the path of the wicked, and go not in the way of evil men. Avoid it, pass not by it, turn from it, and pass away. For they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away, unless they cause some to fall. For they eat the bread of wickedness, and drink the wine of violence. But the path of the just is as the shining light, that shineth more and more unto the perfect day. The way of the wicked is as darkness, they know not at what they stumble. My son, attend to my words, incline thine ear unto my sayings. Let them not depart from thine eyes, keep them in the midst of thine heart. For they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Put away from thee a froward mouth, and perverse lips put far from thee. Let thine eyes look right on, and let thine eyelids look straight before thee. Ponder the path of thy feet, and let all thy ways be established. Turn not to the right hand, nor to the left. Remove thy foot from evil.